Now I'm going to talk about some possible themes of this poem, Salome. So first we start with subject matter, and I just did some brainstorming, and what stood out to me were ideas regarding like the need for baptism, renewal, the role that water plays in that, the concept of childhood being rather innocent, and how when people begin to enter adulthood they begin to shed that innocence, the idea of seduction, of course the idea of incest, the idea of keeping secrets. Okay, now none of those can be theme, right, because that's subject matter. So we want to think about how we can take any of these subjects and turn them into theme. So what is the poem saying about any of these subjects? So these are some of the possible themes that I came up with. Alright, so and if we were talking about this in class, I would say, give me some of your ideas about theme. What do you think the theme might be? I might remind you of what the subject matter is, and then ask you to come up with a theme based on that. So you can have multiple themes, right? You just have to make sure that they're backed up with evidence from the text. So one possible theme might be that even what might be called perversions of nature are still a part of nature and are truths that must be learned at some point. So like the speaker is happening upon this knowledge. We don't know if he's watched Salome before meet her brother at the creek, but this knowledge, given that he's there fishing and it's possible that he's seen this happen before, if he's there fishing, he's just going to encounter situations like this. It's like he can't go his whole life simply going fishing and never see that, given that Salome and her brother go to the creek and have their encounter there. So it's not possible to just stay ignorant of the perversions of nature, because they are a part of nature, and you're going to find out about that at some point. Here's another one. The process of learning the truth about human nature can be disturbing and dangerous. The speaker does say in the poem that he couldn't move, right? Is that because he is mesmerized by her? Is that because he's afraid? Does he know that Cleanthe is going to show up any moment? And we're told the reader is told what Cleanthe did to the speaker's cat. So is the speaker afraid of Cleanthe showing up and then being caught there, and accused of spying on her? And then here's another one. Humans cannot hide or overcome the world's perversions or evil. So the people, the Baptists who were conducting their baptisms 100 yards down the creek, they're not going to have any influence on what Cleanthe and Salome are doing. So even while they're over there trying to bring people to God, Salome and Cleanthe are doing their thing 100 yards away. Here's another one. Although moral depravity exists within white society too, its habit of holding itself as an example for minorities might motivate it to keep such flaws a secret. So this idea that the speaker does make a big deal about the fact that Salome is white. He points that out to the reader. He points out that there are black Baptists conducting baptisms. He doesn't come out and say what his race is, but we might assume that he's black because he says the white girl on her side of the world. It's not his side of the world, right? It's her side of the world. So he makes that distinction. So it might be possible to make this point, especially during this time period. You did have segregation, and you did have whites in many ways being held up as an example, to blacks in particular. So, but yet at the same time being told that, you're not a part of our society. So I think it's kind of interesting that that might work as a theme. You know, the fact that white society is being held up as an example, yet it has its own problems, which might be, you know, evidenced by Salome and Cleanthe. And then here's another one. Sin and the attempt to rid oneself of it is as old as humanity. Salome and Cleanthe go to the river to be together in secret, I suppose, but we can't escape the fact that sorry, not the river, but the creek. We can't escape the fact that they are in a place where baptisms are also being conducted, right? And the purpose of those baptisms is to cleanse and renew, yes, to mark oneself as gods, right? So this idea of going there, maybe not for a religious purpose, but just for the idea of feeling renewed. At the end of the poem, it does mention that they're like Siamese twins, right? At least that's what that's the image that comes to the speaker's mind, like Siamese twins. So maybe this going to the river for Cleanthe and Salome is a way to renew their bond, perhaps. And then our last one, let's see. Just because someone appears to live a privileged life doesn't mean that he or she will never feel trapped or oppressed. Oppression can take different forms. So we're told, the speaker tells the reader at the end of the poem that they're under a tyranny of roots. Let me go back and look at that. Yeah, a tyranny of roots. Swimmers trapped under a tyranny of roots. So Cleanthe and Salome face their own form of oppression. You know, chances are their family would not be happy about their carrying on this way, right? Society as a whole will look poorly upon this behavior. So just because, you know, they're white doesn't mean that they don't face their own problems. Now, we might be tempted to take just a part of a poem and kind of make our theme all about that, but we want to avoid doing that. Instead, we want to make sure that whatever theme we come up with, the whole poem will support that. Not just a part of the poem, but the poem in its entirety will support that theme. So I hope these examples have helped. I hope that when you watch these videos, you, after watching them, you come away with a clearer sense of how you might teach your poem, the questions you might ask, just the ways of thinking about a poem that might allow you to look more deeply and help the class look more deeply into a poem. All these videos amount to, like, the time spent amounts to far more than what you guys are going to use when you teach your poem. But I've kind of slowed everything down, and I'm speaking more slowly probably than I normally do in class. But I'm trying to make this process clearer to you. So I've taken more time and kind of elaborated more, and that's why this is longer. But again, the teaching of your poem will last somewhere between 20 minutes and 40 minutes. Honestly, I would prefer it be like not 40 minutes because, you know, we do have several people in class. So, I mean, 30 might be good. You know, 30 might be a good number. It's a good idea to plan for more than what you might get to talk about, just in case you start speaking much more quickly when you're nervous. You may just like run through the whole thing, and then I will still be telling you, oh my gosh, you know, you've only gone 15 minutes. And then typically when that happens, I try to ask questions so that, you know, try to elicit information from you so we can fill that time. But anyway, I hope these videos have been helpful. And again, make sure you look at the handouts that I've posted on Momentum that deal with looking at poetry. I think that those will be helpful to you as well.